Welcome back, everybody, to Unpop Reviews Wrestling Entertainment's Top 5. And tonight, we talk top 5 wrestling promotions of all time, not the WWE. I am one of your hosts this evening. I am the Tribal Chief of Staff, Mike Knox, and as always, I'm here with the people that help run the place, the faces that run the place, if you will, so to speak. Tonight, to my left, we got the Grand Poobah himself, the rookie, the leader of the Jack Pack. I mean, the man got so many damn names. Forget RVD. It's just him. What's going on, bad guy Jack?
I'm great, as always. Michael, thank you for inviting me on this show.
I don't think I really invited you. We're part of it.
No, you're absolutely right. The door was open. I just walked through it. You're
just
absolutely
kick
right.
the mother sucker down.
No, I didn't have to do all that because I have a knee injury, so I didn't kick nothing down. I just walked through.
See, young people. And he's back, everybody. The most diabolical hater that I know that's not named Mike Knox is I'm your fan's favorite fan, your hater's favorite hater. So I brought a hater with me. What's going on? The Z is silent. How you doing? You're unmuted.
You're unmuted, sir.
You're unmuted.
I'm definitely the diabolical hater of all things, a.k.a. Dice Man Holla, a.k.a. the Z is silent, a.k.a. the Shang Tsung of this wrestling debate shit. You come for me. Your soul is mine, a.k.a. the Apprentice of Thanos, a.k.a. Main Event Silence, a.k.a. everybody's favorite, Big Champ in the chat, those not in the know, and finally, a.k.a. Yo Mama's favorite daddy. That just took 2 minutes.
Well, now, 14 years ago, I was a.k.a. blaming on Bob Johnson, a.k.a. Mr. Hardcore, a.k.a. I don't know what it was just to me, a.k.a. so I stopped. But he took over the mantle, so he can keep it. So
I got another one.
Oh, shit.
a.k.a. one of El Chapo's chefs.
Well, that might explain why he had like such a fat face. It explains a lot. He really did have like a very fat face. So you're to blame for that, Z. Understood.
Shout out to Dice drinking the look like a Smirnoff Ice.
Nah, man. See, Seagram Jones.
I knew it to see. I had the wrong name. Listen,
Yeah,
true story.
these
WrestleMania New Orleans. I'm with King Mo. Mo _ Eaton. Y'all know him. Belt King Extraordinary. And he he don't drink. He don't do nothing. We bought him one of those, and he thought it was too much liquor in it.
It's 3.2%. Listen, this don't even give me slightly buzz.
That's how much he does not drink.
Maybe,
I was like, bro, he can't even finish the drink. I was like, just finish it. He was like, nah, I'm good.
Oh, God.
But tonight we are here to talk about the greatest wrestling promotions of all time. Now, when we first came up with this, I did change it on the fly. I said greatest wrestling promotions. And then it made me think of some things that Steve in the chat room said, El Lobo Solo. And it's right. It's we all would pick WWE to be the number one. I would think that. I ventured out to say that. If I was wrong, I apologize. But I said not name them. So that makes it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. Okay. So you're looking at today, you got AEW newly formed. Where would you put it at? New Japan Pro Wrestling, MLW, Impact Wrestling, NWA, Ring of Honor. The list goes on and on. Things that people don't even know about. Where would you rank them? Because then this is the best part about top 5. I can think I'm right because it's my opinion, and I'd like to think my opinion sometimes comes off as facts, but it's just my opinion, right? Nobody's right or wrong in top 5. That's why we bring it to you on Thursday nights, 8 o'clock, so that way you can have some feel-good moments of professional wrestling. So this is my top 5, Jack's top 5, Z's top 5. Listen, comment below. Let us know. You saw the opening. Like, follow, subscribe, and let us know what yours is. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt because this is your show. This is your baby. So when you came up with the idea about top 5, and credit to you because you've been coming up with what the top 5s are for each and every Thursday at 8 p.m. And you said, hey, let's do a top 5 wrestling promotion. And I agree exactly what you said because, spoiler, my number 1 was WWE because how could it not be number 1 for all of us? And when you changed it up late today, or you spoke it like, not WWE, I said, ooh, that changes everything. So, and I think the beauty about these top 5, I think this is my first top 5 in a long time. And the beauty about it is that each and every one of, like you pointed out, everyone's list is different. I feel like my list is going to be a certain way because of my age. You might have something because right. You grew up when the 1960s.
Well, wrestling. Screw you.
He was in the 40s.
Screw you both.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm younger than your parents, and I'm older to be your uncle. So there it is. All right.
You leave Mama Bad Guy Jack out of this. She's timeless.
Most black queen moms are.
Thank
Okay?
you. I just wanted to hear you say it Thank
like,
you, Michael. Thank you,
you
Michael
talk
J. Knox.
professional wrestling promotions,
Mhm.
okay? And I'm gonna start us off, okay?
Why you have to start off?
Artist?
Maybe I want to start off.
Well, like as you said, it's my program. So, and you're not in the seat where I'm sitting. Hold on. Here we go. Here you go. There it is. He already knows about that. there you go. Now you're in charge. Now you're in
Oh, I'm in charge? Okay, you're fired. Get
I'm
out.
in
No,
charge.
Lead the charge,
So,
Michael J. Knox.
My
You're doing a good
number
job.
5, again, this is top 5 wrestling promotions of all time, not the WWE. Okay.
Oh, I thought it was today. Okay.
So
that threw me off.
when I came up with this list in top 5, I think WWE gets all the credit for everything, but I think these other companies, without them, to me, honestly, there is no WWE, there is no World Wrestling Entertainment, there is no World Wrestling Federation. They're just not, because the purity of wrestling when I was growing up in wrestling in the 80s, okay, it was territories. It was almost the end of the territories, but there were still territories out there. I got to see a lot of professional wrestling, kind of like what you guys are getting to see today. Okay, it's like they say now the boom of professional wrestling is now back because there's so many different more promotions you can sink your teeth into other than WWE. So for me, my number 5, it comes in at the first thing that ever internationally got me liking something outside WWF, to be honest with you, and not name some other promotions that I will name, but that one first biggest one to me that was non-American was seeing the great Muda and New Japan Pro Wrestling, but King of Sports, New Japan Pro Wrestling with Akayo. Y'all know him. He had the great battles with Muhammad Ali, and like they would come over there and the matches with Muda and Sting, the match with Muda and Ric Flair, because back in these times, like again the wrestling boom today, champions from other companies went to go challenge other champions and other promotions and other companies, and that made it great. Even back there in this times, WWE actually even participated in a lot of these activities. People don't know about that, but they actually really did do a lot of that. So for me, my number 5, the Great Mudas, New Japan Pro Wrestling, King of Sports. I'm gonna go with you next, Jack. What's number 5 for your top 5 wrestling promotions of all time?
I'm sorry, I muted myself because I know I usually talk very loud over people, and I know with me and you on the same show, we're just very loud. So I muted myself out of respect, and I think that's a great choice for your number 5. I was so concerned about these top 5s because, like you said, it's your list, and I think everyone the list is gonna. Well, I know everyone's list is gonna be different. So originally, my number 5, if I can just point out, was ECW because number 1 was WWE. Number 5 for me, I don't have a picture. I'm not as fancy as you, Michael J. Knox. So I went with Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor before NXT, that was in a lot of ways their developmental system. A lot of guys, you had CM Punk, you have Colt Cabana, you had, even though the Briscoe brothers didn't go to WWE, but them, Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, a lot of these guys who Ring of Honor was their first, that was their stomping ground. And that I got to go with Ring of Honor for number 5 for me. And not as like, I don't want to sit here and go like, oh, I watched Ring of Honor and I'm such a diehard fan. But I go with a lot of the guys that I like today came from Ring of Honor. Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, El Generico, and there's a bunch of other names. And forgive me if I don't have every last name at the tip of the tongue, but I got to go with Ring of Honor because a lot of the guys today that I like came from Ring of Honor.
The Z is silent. Stay silent no longer, brother. What's your number 5?
So you know what? Of course, I had to go left field. I did not do all time. I did modern day era, which is late 90s, 2000s on. So I would say number 5 for
I'm
me.
putting the homework assignment though, but go ahead.
No. Listen,
Why do you get B's and everything? I said B's, not D's.
Number five for me.
I already know it. I just feel like
late 90s. So what do you think it is?
I think you're gonna go with either TNA or Ring of Honor. I already had them 2 up in there. I think
it would be Ring of Honor.
Okay, I kind of knowing you a little bit, and when you said that, okay.
It would be Ring of Honor only because I got to the Ring of Honor stage a little bit later than everybody. Of course, seeing the Briscoes around the way, those guys got signed at 17, that's like 2000. I want to say 4 maybe. up in that range. So I mean, I was still in high school and everybody was talking about these guys. So that made me tune in a little bit just for them. But then, you know, probably like maybe 4 or 5 years later, like 07, 08, and that round Ring of Honor really was getting a lot of buzz that wasn't mainstream, but it's enough because of the internet was getting more and more popular, getting usage. So you had access to watch those matches that everybody's talking about that people were still reading about in newspapers. So number 5 for me is also Ring of Honor.
See, for me, I have that as an honorable mention, right? Because again, this is where the age group thing comes in at, because I just seen a lot. I've had the opportunity to see a lot more wrestling, I believe, than you guys. Not that you don't have the capabilities with YouTube and that kind of things to go back and watch. It just actively at that
but
time,
it's hard to watch old wrestling.
Yeah,
it's very hard to watch.
And people to me who do it, I give them a double door, because I tried to watch old wrestling like AEW used to come on ESPN back in the day when I would come home from school. Another one of my honorable mentions where the Von Erichs are from, the Fantastics, those guys. And I would try to go back and watch. So Scott Hall comes from over there when you had this Magnum PA gimmick was going on. I just can't watch it still the same. Remember that they used to have the rope, like the string rope was what blocked the fans from coming in. That's how far we go back. So I love your number 5s as it being Ring of Honor. It would be an honorable mention for me. My number 4, again, I don't think when you look at my list and how they're being built and how you guys already know where I'm going with it, it's people that built the company to get to the company to me, the number 1 company, which is WWE, right? So to me, there would be no NWA. There would be no, more importantly, WCW without UWF. We're talking about Dr. Death Steve Williams. We're talking about Cactus Jack. We're talking about Kevin Sullivan. We're talking about the Blade Runners, which was Sting and the Ultimate Warrior. We're talking about a promotion with my guy right there, Dice. You always hear me talking about one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. Okay, this is where he ran Rough Shot, where Jim Ross actually really got his really good roots in. So for me at number 4, UWF, the storyline, Skandauer, Akbar, all those guys, those legends, those great. Derek Mitchell, when he checked this out, he's gonna be like, yeah, I got this one right. Number 4, UWF. And you know, Dice, every time we do a top 5 or something, people always say, Mike, Dice, y'all act like y'all can't pay no love to all the older people. Well, some people get past the F behind. Okay, things go. It's what it is. You know, I mean, there's people who actually think that LeBron's better than Michael. You know, of course, I gotta get it out. We're talking about top 5. So for my number 4, UWF. Jack, your number 4.
That's a really great list. And I'm not gonna lie. I was a little concerned. I think I was saying earlier how, like, you know, when we do these top 5s, and I was, Jesus, this mic was in the way. Smashed the hell out of it. This mic was like really in the way. I didn't mean to smack it. You're not part of my top 5, bro. But my top 5, number 4. This was Jeffrey. That's my best friend right there. You know, I just want to throw it out there. He's part of the Jack Pack community, at least when Shay's not on air. But he's
also a member of the Noxers. Just saying.
No, that's not true. He told me in private that.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me in private.
Conversations about.
Yeah,
y'all having private conversations.
Yeah, because he's my best friend. We have brunch together. That's how much of good friends we are. We have French toast and egg white.
Tell me to my face, you're not a Noxer. Number 4.
He will tell you that.
Number 4.
I'm sorry, I'm a Noxer.
Number 4.
When I drink a Fireball. But number 4 is ECW. ECW, I mean, you know, you mentioned the UWF and you was talking about, because that was something you watched when you was growing up, right? Like,
yeah, UWF was that alternate wrestling. So we all have, especially you being in New York, you can really relate to this. And I'm not sure, Dice, I know being down from where you're in Delaware, I'm not sure of the other syndicate channel. Like we talked about before, how Ring of Honor didn't really come on. Ring of Honor came on syndicate channels. Right. Yeah. So UWF came on one of them syndicate channels. So back in my day, it was 57, which is known today in the Philadelphia as CWWB kind of channel. So back in my day, it wasn't popular. It wasn't a channel that played, it was a syndicate channel. And so UWF would come on like a Saturday, just like ECW, Saturday night, 10 p.m. You know what I mean? You might find UWF. I mean, you would come on, and some weeks you'd be like, damn, it's not on. And they would be playing like, your Philadelphia urban street rap videos at that time or something. Like seriously, it was like maybe came on like maybe twice or three times a month, not every single week. You know what I mean? But it came on a syndicate channel, like you would say, like ECW.
No, and so I make it clear, like I feel like a lot of the lists that I have made, he is so smart. He just don't want to get into any kind of debate. He's a smart guy. But I picked ECW because once again, like how I picked Ring of Honor, a lot of guys that okay, so WWE, right? It was in late 98, 99, it was really killing wrestling. It was really where it was at this height. But the hardcore division comes from ECW. And they took that. We talked about how WWE, you mentioned earlier how WWE, wow, it's the juggernaut and all that stuff, but they took little things from certain companies. And ECW, they took from ECW. They took that hardcore division. I didn't watch ECW growing up. It wasn't like my fave or anything like that. And also, too, how you mentioned, where could I find it? I wasn't going to stay up 2 a.m. because my parents were black. They was not going to let me stay up 2 a.m. when I'm in the 6th grade. They would have said, "Sir, what are you doing?" And I didn't know what channel it was on. But a lot of people came from there. RVD, I think he's made a hell of a career being in WWE. And I'm pretty sure there's other guys. Steven Richards.
For me, he's the biggest star to come from ECW.
Absolutely, because a lot of times you hear the argument about, so I hear like Tommy Dreamer, he's the heart and soul, but I'm like, right, but RVD was just everything for me. When I saw that match with him and Jeff Hardy in Invasion 2001, I was cheering
all the time.
and I cheered, and admittedly, I cheered for Jeff Hardy in the beginning, but I'm not gonna lie, when RVD he kicked the chair right back, I said, I don't know who this dude is, but yeah, I was for it. So I gotta go with ECW because they took a lot of great talent, and they also took a lot of stuff from ECW to help continue to build that juggernaut that is WWE. So I gotta go with ECW as number 4 for me.
Dice, Impact or ECW at 4 for you? I'm trying to think where I'm at with you on this one. I got your number 5. Am I close?
No.
Okay.
New Japan.
Okay, which New Japan? The one I watch or the one that's currently been around the last 15 years?
Yeah, the New Japan that was introduced to us in WCW World Tour.
Okay. So what's my man Habushi? Did I say his name right? They had all the tattoos. They had the tattoos. Like he was in WWE for a while too. That guy was menacing to me in that game.
So I mean that game kind of introduced me to half of those people because I didn't know. I mean, you thinking like you're about to get a whole roster of WCW guys, and then it's like, well, who the hell is him? Like, so I mean, for me, I still can't catch New Japan. Like, it's not like a weekly thing. It's
right.
Just word of mouth. But somehow everybody knows everybody in there. Like, I never understand it. So for me, it's just like we've had when WCW went down. It was like, all right, if you were big, then you would explore New Japan, right? Like, there's the Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar match that nobody saw. There's only pictures and news articles about it, but they say it's one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time that nobody ever seen, right? Like, Brock Lesnar left and went to New Japan. Kurt Angle went to New Japan. So in that early mid 2000s, when you were a big guy and you went to New Japan because that was it. Like, WCW was gone. TNA, you're bigger than TNA. You can't. No, you're way bigger than that. So for me, for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I just wanted,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to throw in because Z was saying some Z stuff and it was great. But when he was mentioning no one watched, I just want to throw out, I was in the crowd when Brock and Kurt Angle had that match in New Japan. I was right there.
You was in Japan?
Yeah, I was there. Why does that seem like a shock to you, Z? I'm very upset with you. Yes, I was there.
Okay,
I don't believe that.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not.
I don't believe
we're
that.
Not that far off in age, and
right.
I don't know.
I don't believe that whatsoever. That's like
he telling one of them Ray J lies.
I was telling
one of them Ray J.
Oh, now I'm offended. Now I want to tell the truth. I
was technically at WrestleMania
4.
I was technically at WrestleMania 4 at the Boardwalk in Atlantic City because my mother then went to a casino the same day it was WrestleMania, and I happened to be in Atlantic City. So technically, I went to WrestleMania 4. Technically, I did get a program in front.
That's like in the late '90s when there was a pay-per-view on that Sunday. You flicked the channel 99, You got the little scramble channels, and but you can hear a little bit. So you kind of cock your head to the side, you see a rock bottom out of somewhere. So you going to school the next day, like, yo, I saw
was
this
there, right?
Like, your mom let you order that for $60? Like, yeah. Like, what you mean?
I was gonna say to you, admittedly, I actually saw that match. That was what I was gonna say to you. When that happened, I actually did it. I got a chance. I had at that time I was working at in Chadsford, Pennsylvania, a publication place. I actually sold news publications for a living. Crazy. And I had a couple crazy friends that had plugs with tapes and things like that. And I actually saw that match. Love you guys' list. You had ECW at 4, you had New Japan at 4, I had New Japan at 5, I got ECW at 3. Okay, a lot of things you've mentioned there, right? To me, admittedly,
I think Taz had the biggest hype. He had the biggest
Taz
100% was the biggest star.
100% Taz was their biggest hype. But Rob Van Dam, for me, like Jack, was the one that got me to pay them attention. And I was going to ECW matches. This is my height in Philadelphia. Me moving back from Chicago, coming back to Philadelphia, getting with a different crowd of people who were not the crowd that, I've always had 2 sets of friends, right? And that set of friends were wrestling fans. Back in those days, being the hustler in which I were, it was kind of frowned upon to be the geek that I was at the same time. I'm the guy on the corner in East New York with a Brandy shirt on the corner. So because I've always been who I am. And so ECW for me, but and that's why I always got offended when people said, I used the comments. I thought it was funny. It's wrestling, right? When Jerry Lawler goes extremely crappy wrestling. I honestly thought the wrestling was crappy. The storylines were great. Right. And because of their storylines, because of their attitudes, that's what pushed them to me. They're over the top, but they were doing things that were was crazy to be doing. And when I finally saw Rob Van Dam and that elk of those people starting to come into that company, Jerry Lynn and all those guys coming to push it like, no, this is amazing. And again, you said it earlier, without ECW, where is the attitude area? Okay, if Vince didn't have, and they always say, if you don't steal something, you're not trying. Okay, and with Vince's production and how they did it, he ripped off ECW, he partnered with ECW, he funded ECW in ways people know about, and boom. So for me, number 3 that's not WWE is ECW.
And if I could just add a little bit, because as you was talking and you were saying a lot of great things, I feel like remiss if I didn't mention people like Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn. There was a lot of talent that came from being Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho is one of my favorites. Rey Mysterio. Matter of fact, if I could just say this real quick.
Moving dude?
Yes, he's been listening. Yes, the greatest cruiserweight of all time. Rey Mysterio has you all fooled, but not me, because I don't drink Kool-Aid, because I don't want my blood pressure going over the roof.
I am a Hoovy Tude fan. All 3 of us are in liking with that as well.
But he ain't the GOAT.
No,
he ain't the GOAT.
Rey Mysterio is the GOAT. If there's no Rey Mysterio, there's no Juventud. That's all I'm saying. If there's no Rey Mysterio, there's no Juventud.
So just too much Kool-Aid, the blood pressure, the doctors are gonna have a field day with you guys.
Just to recap,
because I will be.
I almost had a walk-off moment where he just
to recap, so we can go ahead and move on.
Don't leave,
we got a couple more to go through.
Contractually obligated.
We got a couple more to go through, so I'm gonna start with you now, Dice, going the opposite way. At your number 2, Dice, who do you have as your top?
You mean 3?
No, we just did 3. Oh, I led with 3. I apologize. So go ahead, Jack, then Dice, and then Dice again for number 2. So go ahead, Jack, what's your number 3?
Juventud Guerrero. No, I'm joking. But number 3, I when I was going through this list, right, and it was hard because I really wanted to think this through. I feel like when the top 5, I just want to think this through. I got to go with number 3 for me, because originally it was, if I could just say, it was Impact. It was TNA. But for me, because it's still a newer company, I got to go with AEW. And that probably stems to, I can see everyone laughing like, well, why not about this brand? AEW, I think it's great that you have, yes, you could have Tony Coke up there. He didn't pay me to do this. It's not me being a biased reporter. But I got to go with him be AEW, because I just think it's great that there's a secondary company right about now. They're still new, they're still young, there's still a lot of things that they got to grow on, but I just think it's good that we have a strong number two, and it's good for the boys and the girls out here because not everyone makes it in WWE. Not everyone's going to go to New Japan. Not everyone's going to be going to Impact these days. So I got to go with number 3, AEW. I don't have a strong fighting argument for them, but
it's no argument. It's yours. That's what it is.
It is mine. Yes, thank you.
And even Tony Khan was shocked. Dice, number 3 for you.
I think you know this. WCW.
WCW. Rap is crap.
I mean, the biggest competition to WWE, it can't be left out. It can't be forgotten. We wouldn't see guys like Paul White. We wouldn't see guys like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Booker T. So, I mean, without that, from them jumping ship, Vicky. Without WCW, we don't get half of the ruthless aggression era, in which you think is the greatest era of wrestling. I would say it's probably up there, top 3 for me. So without that, she was really low. I was talking over her.
I know. I had her on low on purpose. Go ahead.
So I mean, WCW can't be forgotten. It gave us the greatest faction in the history of factions. That's not named the Bloodline. I mean, they didn't have the best storylines, but we got some enjoyable alternative wrestling to WWE. You say ECW, the Attitude Era is built around, was manifested from ECW. I think it's a mixture. I think it's more so what the NWO was doing as opposed to ECW, because they literally were just drawing off of each other. And I think ECW was a non-motherfucking factor.
I think when it comes to that scenario, I see where you can get that from, but for me, I look at it differently, where WCW let them talk a certain way, right? That ECW also did, but what ECW was doing in the ring that didn't equate or captivate people, when WWF took that. An attitude there, so the ladders, the chairs, those kind of matches became WWF's thing that ECW was doing. But to me, WWF was doing it better than ECW was doing it because they had just better everything at that time. To do it. But I cannot knock WCW for your number 3. So go right into it right away as we're pressed for time. Your number 2, Dice.
You know this.
Yeah, Impact Wrestling.
No. TNA, not Impact. TNA.
Yes, all right.
TNA. I mean, think about it. The Attitude Era goes down. And we got the horrible invasion angle, and for that for a good year and a half, the talent had nowhere to go. The talent, the WCW talent, null and void. They were gone. Jeff Jarrett starts up TNA, and now these people that we are used to seeing on weekly television got an alternate place to still do their profession without having to go and learn a whole new language as opposed in New Japan. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, TNA had they were different. They had a great alternative. They moved from the 4-sided to the 6-side, which one of the greatest things in wrestling. If they could have done that, if they could have stayed with it, Hogan and Bischoff fucked it up. If they could have stayed with that today, I think they would be a bigger product than AEW. They just don't have the money. But what they've been able to do in recapturing, scratching Sean Stacy, what they were able to do, in reference to, I guess, scrapping what TNA was, but still giving them their flowers with occasional returns of the originals, but to rebrand themselves as Impact and is no longer TNA. That's why WWEs are allowed to say TNA on TV now. I think that has more impact than Impact. So,
number 2, Grand Poobah.
So I don't want to seem like I'm biting off Z, but I mean, he said a lot of great things, but that was my number 2. Originally, it was my number 3. I was trying to figure out the placement between that and AEW, but I got to go with Impact. Impact was, I mean, TNA, I'm sorry,
Right.
but Total Nonstop Wrestling. I mean, look at the guys that we got out of Total Nonstop Wrestling. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels. I mean, and sure, you could say, well, they had their stomach grounds in Ring of Honor, but TNA and that
What's molded them?
yeah, it was like that mid 2000 period that while there wasn't a super threat to WWE, of course, but even still, I mean, I found myself in that mid 2000 period. I was more interested in everything that TNA was doing. Not even just from the males, the knockouts. These women were going out there. Some people who don't get flowers. Roxy Laveau. I thought she was great, and she was someone who didn't win the Impact. Was it the Knockouts Championship? Gail Kim. Awesome Kong. I mean, TNA was just at a great time period. So like, I gotta go with number 2 for them. I feel like there's a lot of things that I'm like, man, I'm missing out saying all these things, but I gotta go with Total Nonstop Wrestling, man. That was number 2 for me.
Number 2 for me, if you can already see, how can I not put WCW? Okay, Sting, the NWO Angle, Goldberg. That was WCW.
Oh damn! Oh. I messed up my list. God damn.
That's because you got to think at this point. Ron Simmons is here. As you guys just mentioned, Doom came from here. We get Harlem Heat from here. We get the Luchadors from here. WCW, in my opinion, to this day, is the only competition that WWE's ever had in any era. Financially is what all matters. Not a matter about my opinion, your opinion, her opinion, their opinion. It's about dollars and cents. People get into businesses to create money. No one was close to making that much money than WWF, than WCW. So for me, number 2 is WCW. So now, little break, guys. Just and try to get through this as fast as we can. If you have any honorable mentions before we go through our number 1s, okay. And I'll start that off with you while you guys give you a chance. Maybe you got to look it up or things like that. So for me, some credit goes to me for ECWA, hometown guy. Everybody knows I'm like a mutt to this world. Chicago, Philadelphia, Delaware is where I became a man at. Me loving wrestling, getting to come to Delaware, seeing ECW, where I saw Charlie Haas. This is where I became an American Dragon fan of Daniel Bryan. I've seen these guys coming up through ECWA. Okay. Also, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I want to give honorable mention to Georgia Wrestling. I said it before when I get in the show. AWA was, I come home from school, boom, wrestling's on TV on ESPN. And I wish they still did that. So honorable mentions to those guys. Any honorable mentions for UZ?
You know what? I completely effed my list up.
Okay, 1 second. I tag you. I want to give those ones you mentioned because I do want to get some credit to those, and I apologize.
Oh, you know what?
Total Nonstop Action, and I will give AEW a little bit, but Total Nonstop Action to me is even.
That's my one.
Okay, that's your one. Okay, I thought
that's my one.
I thought so.
Move everything up. So my 5.
Yeah.
My 5 is NWA.
It's NWA. It's number 5.
It's NWA only because of what they're still doing today on a smaller scale, but they get just as much respect and credibility and notoriety as AEW.
That name rings out.
And AEW is on my honorable because
mine too.
They haven't shown me. They haven't shown me enough. They're too young. They haven't shown me enough, and they don't even know how to build or treat their own stars yet.
I agree with that.
So, too. I mean, it's too slow of a burn. If you guys, truthfully, this is unpopular review. Here's an unpopular opinion. MJF's title reign is some mid.
No, it ain't. Stop lying.
It's some mid. I'm dead ass.
It's Reggie. It's Reggie. And I like MJF, and you know I do. It is straight. Straight Reggie.
It is some mid. It is just as bad as Hangman Adam Page's run.
Hey, you gotta stop that.
Yeah.
So, Grand Poobah, any honorable mentions?
No.
Okay.
I got one.
One more,
shout out to the defunct Global Force Wrestling.
Yes. Hey, I interviewed those
They
guys.
had a roster.
I interviewed those guys. Remember when I was in Virginia?
A roster, man.
They invited us
And
down. Shout out to Jeff Jarrett for that. Shout out to Jeff Jarrett for that. He brought us down and interviewed him at Squirrel Stadium in Richmond, Virginia. And I seen some famous guy, that's, I don't know if it was a masterpiece or not, doing some blow. I'm just saying.
Oh, now last shout out to MLW. Shout out to MLW.
Absolutely.
They are definitely doing some
stable
things there.
Yep. I think we look at indie wrestling from a, whatever you want to call it. There's Ring of Honor, and then there's MLW.
And they're right there. Yep.
They're right there to me. I definitely agree with you on that one. So number one, starting with you, Dice.
My number one is TNA.
You already told us. You're right. I apologize. You went through that already. Grand Poobah, you're number one.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, I gotta say my number one is pretty global. It is a big time force, if you will. No, I'm just kidding. Woo! No, I gotta go with WCW, man. Like, I don't do this. I don't talk wrestling without WCW. So for me, WCW was number one. It was the biggest threat to WWE. It was the biggest threat. You guys said it earlier. The storylines. I agree with. I believe it was you earlier that said this. You mentioned earlier, Mike. Now I agree that ECW was kind of a threat to WWE, but a lot of the threat was WCW in that '90s period. DX is not born without NWO. I know everyone says suck it, but I was saying too sweet. That came from the original bad guy right there. But yeah, I gotta go with WCW. Everything was, and also too, just to give him the edge and what made WCW so great. If I could have another 5 seconds. Why are you laughing, Z? Juventud Guerrero.
Serious for a moment.
I'm just gonna say Juventud Guerrero.
Juventud Guerrero. Let's be real. He was a game changer.
He was. We like the juice. You don't have to preach to us. He just ain't the goat.
No, I don't know what kind of juice you like, Mike. But yeah, I was a big fan of Juventud Guerrero. I don't know what's going on over there.
He called himself the juice. What do you mean?
I know he was called the juice. I was friends with him.
All right. Listen, just to recap for me. Number 5, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Number 4, UWF. Number 3, ECW. Number 2, WCW. And my number 1. The greatest wrestling promotion, not the WWE. There is no WCW. When WCW became WCW, it was still NWA to me. Okay, it was all the same people. They just changed the name. And before we had dirt sheets, and before, I'm from the hood. I didn't get a chance to get PWI all the time. I didn't even know it switched over. I just thought, they changed the name. And I'm watching the name on Saturday nights at 7:05 on TBS, seeing it say World Championship Wrestling. But damn it, 2 weeks ago, it was NWA with all the same people. So I didn't even know it even changed over. We're talking about the greatest faction in a lot of people's mind. Before the NWO, which I don't really call them a faction to me, they're a promotion. They're more than a faction to me, NWO. I get that's what we call them, but to me, they're bigger than a faction, right? They're like China. China can't be the greatest women wrestler of all time because she's just bigger than women's wrestling to me, was China, right? That's the NWO. But the Four Horsemen is the original baddest faction ever made. And that man on that screen right there, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, is why I watch professional wrestling today. The first time my kids ever saw me cry, when that man died, and my son said, "Did you know him?" I said, "Nope." But without him, I wouldn't watch wrestling. It was easy for me to relate to him. He's a fat, out of shape guy, and I just never seen a white guy at that time that talked like a brother. Okay, like everybody acts like, and I'm not saying they were lying. Like Flair was the guy, and Flair, like all my friends were Ric Flair fans. I hated the Four Horsemen growing up. I hated them. I was a dusty. That man wore starter jackets and mink coats and got pretty much look like a Jerry Curl, right? Like a blonde Jerry Curl. Like he was everything to me. Was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So for me, Jim Crockett Promotions, it's not even been matched. It can't be touched. UWF tried to beat them. Every promotion to me in wrestling history would not be who they are without them. And as Dice just said, NWA is so strong that the name, when people today hear wrestling and you say AEW, They're like, okay, you got, and to be honest, let's be fair here. You got to say, oh yeah, CM Punk and Jericho. You got to mention the guys that came from WWE for them to even know who the hell you're talking about. When you say NWA, oh, I ain't talking about Negroes with attitudes. In the world of professional wrestling, you know it rings out. It's a stable. It's a name that will never die. There is no war games. There is no the War Warriors. There is no scaffold matches. When I'm watching Jim Cornette get thrown off a 30-foot scaffold and break his hip bone, we're talking about when I thought wrestling was absolutely real. Was Jim Crockett Promotions. Number one for me, the NWA Jim Crockett Promotion. Guys.
Listen, Jim Cornette, did he get thrown off a scaffold now? The way he be talking, man. I'm tired of him and Vince Russo. I'm so damn tired of them.
What was one of the first things I said to you when I said, when you get to know those guys, you realize all these wrestlers, just a lot of old ones are old and bitter.
They are definitely, both of them are definitely bitter.
So, thank you guys again for joining us for another episode of Top 5. Y'all can catch us here again next week for another episode of Top 5. I know we ran over. We appreciate all your comments, likes, and concerns in the chat room. Please continue to keep us positive and keep us in your subscriber list and your bell notifications. So, hey guys, my Mike Knox, that's the Grand Poobah. The Z is silent is back, but we know that just means we'll be back again, guys. And make sure you check us out this coming Monday. I will not be here. Dice Man will replace me on the Mike Knox Show, Perfect Plex Talk Radio. Find out who he's going to give some flowers to this week. Make sure you go check out the Big Pop Podcast available on wherever podcasts are sold.
It's the Big Pop Theory Podcast.
Big Pop Theory. I apologize. I'll never mess it up again. The Big Pop Theory Podcast with yours truly right there, Grand Poobah and Captain Shakespeare. Make sure you check that out. And all the shows on the Unpop Reviews networks, not just wrestling, entertainment as well, and much more to come in 2023. Go ahead, Jack. Get us out of here.
And support Juventud Guerrero.
I'm just going to say something crazy like this. We out of here, y'all.
Whoa.
Bye. You said, whoa, I stopped the camera.
Yeah. No, yeah. I need my outro. Give me the out. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Give it to me.
I'm sorry. My bad, guys. I apologize. Do not wake up tomorrow morning and say to yourself, I love me some me and don't love God. We out of here, y'all. Peace.